Hi, I'm Joy Taylor, and this is the Second Wind podcast.
There she is. Joy. How are you?
Great.
I'm right to work.
Yes.
Damn.
It's just
It's an honor.
LA, so it takes that long.
What's up, Second Wind family? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Second Wind podcast. I'm Jay Mills here with Gio, of course, my co-host. But thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, comment. We appreciate all the love. Today, we have one of the most brilliant and talented individuals in sport media with us here today. She is the host of The Speak on FS1. Thank you, Joy Taylor, for joining us today. We appreciate you so
We
much.
geek.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, I'm geeked. I mean, we was just watching you on FS1 talk about LeBron and Dylan Brooks beef and talk about if the Clippers can win without Kawhi Leonard. And I'm like, damn, she still made time to come show love to the Second Wind.
We
so,
appreciate
that's
that.
Love,
Thank
man.
you
That's
so
love.
much.
We
You know
really
it's
appreciate
family.
that.
Appreciate that.
So starting off, like, you're from Pittsburgh, right? And everyone I know from Pittsburgh reps Pittsburgh like y'all a gang. And you're one of those people who always wears Pittsburgh on your chest and you wear it with pride. What does being from Pittsburgh mean to you?
It is a gang. It is.
Yes, it is.
I think wherever you're from, you kind of carry the spirit of that with you, and it's unique, obviously. Whether you're, from the South, you're from Pittsburgh, you're from Cali, you sort of just have that energy built into you. And to me, Pittsburgh is a very, it's a blue collar place. It's a very simple place, but it's a hardworking place.
Right.
And we have a little bit of a chip on our shoulder about how we go through life. Like, it's not, I don't know, so can I cuss on here?
You can say whatever
Okay.
you want. You can say whatever. Go ahead.
No, you good.
It's just kind of like a no soft shit mentality,
Right.
like no excuses, and you just make it happen.
Right.
And that's in some ways, maybe not you got to evolve
Right.
in some ways
Yeah.
past that, but I think that's a connecting fiber. Like, you meet someone from Pittsburgh, you feel like you met a real person.
Mhm.
You met somebody who's going to keep it real, who isn't putting on for any reason.
Yeah.
And you kind of just inherently trust them.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of people from Pittsburgh, and when I meet other people from Pittsburgh, or if people find out I'm from Pittsburgh, like, they'll think I'm from a certain place, and then like, oh, you're from Pittsburgh? Like, wait, what?
Y'all got
Okay.
y'all got accents, and I did not know that.
So I feel like I skipped the Pittsburgh accent.
It's crazy. I've never.
Yeah, I don't hear
But
no
a
accent.
lot of my family has the accent.
Really?
It's a deep rooted
Yeah.
accent.
Be
It's
like,
crazy.
Yin's guys going down to the
Yep.
I feel like
the creek.
everybody.
We're going down to the stadium, get some irons and that south side.
Yep, that's how they talk. Just like that. Southside.
What?
That's how they
Go
talk.
to the south side, get some irons and that.
That's
Go
how
to
they
Giant
talk.
Niggle.
That's insane.
We don't really finish the word.
At all. At all. When I was in training camp with the Steelers, I'm just like, bro, why do you guys have accents for? Like,
I don't know.
everyone has accents.
We do, I don't have an explanation for the accent, but it's just we have another language also. Like, we have words that everyone doesn't use, like a buggy. You know what a buggy is?
Nah, what's that?
It's a shopping cart.
Nah, that's
A
punch
buggy is a
buggy.
shopping cart.
Nah, that's cap.
A gum band
Mm.
is a rubber band.
No.
Nah.
Y'all just making up
Like,
words.
words.
over
Y'all
there.
just making up
Like,
random
y'all just
shit
making up
down.
words.
I
I
don't
don't
say
even.
like pop. Pop. Is
Pop soda.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
okay.
cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Let's soda pop. So that's not that far
Yeah.
out. But yeah, we have some made up words as well. It's a whole language. That's funny that you noticed that.
I
But
know.
yeah,
I noticed all that.
I did manage to skip the accent, but it definitely is in my family for sure. So I can understand it.
Right.
I feel like everyone always reps where they're from so hard. Like, this guy's from Connecticut, and he's always talking
Small
about Connecticut.
state. I
Like,
got
who
to.
wants to go to Connecticut?
See,
Nobody
that's
ever.
they're not about to try to play in my state, Caleb.
Like,
Come on.
Nobody ever wants to go to Connecticut.
No.
But moving on. So early on, you went to IUP, right? Shout out to PSAC, and then you went to Barry, right? And then you got an internship, and you kind of worked your way up the ranks. And at Barry, you talked about how you learned a lot of vital stuff that you use now today in broadcasting. You ended up at Undisputed, and then at FS1. What would you tell young Joy Taylor, just walking into her first day at her internship, about this industry and everything that you've learned to this point?
Whew. Don't trust everybody, for sure. And to really appreciate each step of your career. I think as young people, you have a really otherworldly confidence, right? Like sometimes I'm like, damn, you know, you look like a picture of your younger self. Well, I don't know. Like I was looking back like, damn, I thought I was fat there. I look the fuck good. What was wrong with me? You have this real confidence about yourself when you're young, which is great. Like they say youth is wasted on the young. But you're not necessarily ready for the opportunities that you think you want all the time or that you think you're ready for. Like there's no way at 22 I could do what I'm doing now. I didn't know enough. I felt, if you asked me, I'd be like, hell yeah, I could do that. Like I'm
The confidence.
Yeah.
How could I not do that? But you need the experience, and every step can feel like, sometimes it can feel like you're being passed over or it's not adding value. And if you have that mentality, you can lose out on some of the lessons that you should be learning in that moment that you could be taking advantage of.
Right.
So things happen when they're supposed to happen. Everything that's meant for you will come to you. And I know that's very cliche, but as you move through your career and as you move through life, you can look back on opportunities. I'm sure you guys have both experienced this, where you've heard no. And in the moment, you're like, it's over. Like, there's nothing else.
Absolutely.
It's the biggest disappointment. You put everything into this and it didn't work out. And it's just like, where do you go from here?
Mm-hmm.
The biggest no's in my life have gotten me to where I am now. Like, I'm so grateful.
That's amazing.
For some of the no's. And in the moment, I was mad. But now I look back like, damn, thank God they said no to me. If I was there, like, who knows what would have happened? Yeah. They would have stuck me in this situation. They would have put me in this role. It would have kept me from all these other opportunities that the no steered me from. So there's definitely moments where I would go back and pay more attention to what I was supposed to be learning in those times. And I appreciate every step now, but be a little more present, you know, enjoy the process.
Yeah.
You think those situations made you more patient and you learned patience throughout that time?
I don't know if I would describe myself as a patient person. I don't know if I could say patient, but it does make me more present now. There are moments when I get a new opportunity or I achieve something where I'm able to take a step away from it and say, okay, I'm going to really experience this. Like at the Super Bowl in Miami, which was 3 years ago, which seems crazy. Like we've lived like 10 years in the last 3 years.
Literally.
But that was a moment where I consciously said to myself, I'm going to be present this week. You know, Super Bowl week is insane.
Wild.
There's stuff going on every second of the day. You're being pulled in a million different directions. You have to be at 15 different events a day. And then on top of that, I'm doing the show. But we were doing the show live from South Beach. We had these massive sets that the studio and the network had built for us to do the show live from South Beach. Obviously, I went to school at Barry. My brother played for the Dolphins. I lived in Miami for 10 years. That's where I started my career in radio. So it was a full circle moment to be able to come back there on the herd and do the show, you know, from South Beach
for sure.
all week long, and to do everything else that we had planned that week for the Super Bowl. So I really made a point to say, I'm going to soak all this in. Like, I'm going to really think about what I'm experiencing and enjoy this and not blur through the week, because this is an important moment and it's going to be something that I remember. And I've worked really, really hard to get this opportunity. Yeah. So now, having gone through all of those other situations that might have taught me patience, it definitely teaches me to be more present and appreciate, you know, you work hard for things and sometimes you're so focused on the next step that you don't take a beat to just enjoy. When, like, okay, like, take cool. Like, I worked hard for this. Let me enjoy this for a moment before I, you know, get back on the grind.
For real.
That's what me and him talking about, just being where your feet are, because I feel like it's a pro and a con, because you're a hard worker and you always want more, but you never smell the flowers when you're in the moment. Something that we all got to work on, because I'm the same way sometimes.
He tells me that all the time. Like, I'm always thinking about the next thing. And he's like, bro, you did X, Y, and Z. Like, can you just smell the flowers? I'm like, nah,
be present.
Like, we got to get after it. We got to do this. We got to do that. You know what I'm saying?
It's a bit of a curse of being an aspirational person.
Yeah.
To always be worried about what's coming next, or are you wasting time? Or, you know, did you miss an opportunity? And I feel that it's almost like an anxiety. Like, okay, I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
And especially if you come from, you know, humble beginnings, it's really hard to appreciate things because you have this constant fear that it's all going to go away. Mm-hmm. So being at peace with, wow, this is something I accomplished and this is this is cool. Like, I worked for this. There was a point where I dreamed of times like this, you know?
Right.
So let
Philly.
me just take a second in this moment, be where your feet are. And, you know, you deserve to do that. And I think over the past few years, as I just mentioned, like, we've all gone through a lot of crazy shit. It really slowed us all down. And I think that helps, for me at least, to be like, okay, I love what I do, but I don't want to live just to work. Like, I want to travel. I want to spend some time with my friends. I want to, you know, go shopping and buy that thing I wanted to buy
Yes,
by
because you
myself
worked hard
when I was
for it.
19.
Yeah, I
like,
bust my ass for that.
yeah, exactly. So I do think it's important to enjoy the spaces you're in while you're in them also.
1,000%. So, you know, year after year, there is so many more Black women in media, and you play a huge role in that, being on TV every day, being someone that people look up to. Where do you see the trajectory of Black women in media heading?
I mean, I'm hoping and I feel like it's trending upwards.
Yeah.
I think diversity, it has become a very obvious thing that is needed, but also we've been able to show that it not only works, but it sustains and builds audiences. It allows for a more diverse audience, which of course means more people. And, you know, as Black women, we had to work the hardest to get here.
Twice
So we
as
are the
hard.
most prepared, and excellence is the only option. So I think it's been amazing to see the transformation over. I mean, since I've been in this business my first internship was 2007. So that was, I don't even know how many years ago, but I've seen the business change tremendously. And I think it's trending upwards. And I think the more the business grows, you know, with gambling and just the expansion of sports in general, the sports coverage, it just opens up more opportunities and doors. And I'm hoping that, you know, the work that so many women have done before, you know, my generation, and the excellent work that is happening now is just going to continue to open more doors.
It's just amazing to see. It's just like, you know, you turn on the TV, see you know, Taylor's doing her thing.
Yep.
Malika Andrews is doing her thing. Mariah Taylor. Yep. She, like, it's just so moving to see Black women doing amazing in their field. So
yeah, and representation is so important, as you know. So my hope is, and I'm sure this is what's happening, that the more that young Black women see us on television, that idea that you can do this also. I mean, that's what it was for me watching Jemele Hill on ESPN. Like, I was able to see, like, okay, not only is she on television every day, she's doing what I want to do, which is give her opinion. And she's equal to all the men on the show. And for me, that made me see, like, believe it could happen.
Right.
It's so much harder to create something and know you can do something and no one else can see you in that space. But when someone's already done it before you, and you see the representation of yourself on television, that inspires the ability to believe that you can do it and to follow that path. So
Absolutely.
I'm hoping that representation helps, you know, inspire young women to be in the business as well.
For sure. Like, some of my favorite messages that I get, like, were when we dropped the Taylor episode, a lot of women contacted me who were trying to get into sports, and they were like, yo, that episode really, like, inspired me, you know, like, I've been having so many doubts, this, that, and the third, and I'm like, that's dope, you know, that's a cool message to get, because she probably was really insecure or whatever the case may be. And like, now she feels like I could do this, you know, and Taylor talking about her struggles, and you now talking about how hard it is and like what you expect, where you expect the industry to go. Like, that's going to help a lot of women. So I'm excited to see where it's going to go. Cause y'all, honestly, y'all do things like twice as good as
twice.
like,
Yeah.
man,
That's what I'm saying. Y'all the best. Y'all the best.
Like, just,
no doubt.
Just being honest.
Do you
we
feel
appreciate
like,
that.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you feel like being in those shoes now where you dreamed of and planned on being, do you feel like an extra carried weight being a Black woman on TV? Like, do you feel like more pressure?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Especially because I'm in a space of opinion where, you know, everyone doesn't necessarily agree with everything that I say all the time, which is fine. But, you know, I have to be prepared. I have to be factually accurate and, you know, excellent all the time. But I'm happy to do that because I know the doors that are being opened for other people. And also because I want to do a good job. Like, I take what I do seriously. I don't take myself seriously as far as, like, you know, all that goes, but I take what I do seriously. Like, I approach my job professionally, and I want to do a good job. I want the show to grow. I want the business to grow. and I don't really have the space to be aloof about it. So yeah, there is a lot of pressure because if I want to open the doors for other women, I've got to be an example, not just for other women, but also to the networks of what this is,
By the way, I love your takes.
Thank
so
you.
it's all good. I love your takes.
Yeah.
So every bit of success that you've had from the start of your career to now, you've earned completely. But I feel like there's a sect of people that just think your success came because of who your brother is. Do you ever feel undermined because of that?
No, I don't, because honestly, people that sign checks don't care about that.
That's
I
real.
mean, they don't. You can be anyone's daughter, sister, brother, son, or cousin, or god kid. If you can't do the job, you might get an opportunity that someone else might not get, but you're not going to keep it. You can't fake your way through this level of what we do. You just can't.
You got to be too elite. Too elite.
You have to be able to hang, and your live television at a network level on a daily show is not the same. It's just a different animal. And I've come up all the way from being an intern on a sports talk morning show in Miami to where I am now. I've done every position: intern, part-time intern, full-time intern, part-time producer, full-time producer, blogger, freelancer, cover youth sports, cover red carpets, radio, did a radio show last year, podcast, moderator, like whatever job, shoot, edit, everything, update anchor on the radio, update anchor on the radio and television, like whatever job there is.
Yeah.
Going crazy.
I haven't run prompter, so I haven't done that, although I did learn how to do that in college. So yeah, I mean, it's just, if that's going to be someone's opinion of me, then that's fine. And I don't, someone else's opinion of me doesn't change who I am. And I mean, my brother's been a big influence in my life. So I'm very grateful that I got to see an athlete's experience from literally growing up homeless to becoming a Hall of Famer, every up and down in between that, college, having to make the league. He came in as a third rounder in 1997. It's not like he came in making $35 million a year. He had to earn a spot on the team, keep earning it, to getting cut, to getting traded, to retiring, transitioning out of the league. All of that, watching all of those experiences definitely gave me a different perspective on sports.
Right.
So I consider that to be a privilege, that I know all those things firsthand. When I'm talking about sports or giving my opinion on these type of things, it's coming from a human place, because I've seen that.
You've seen so many, yeah. That's why your takes are so damn good, because
Thank
you
you.
firsthand what it looks like.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like when someone's traded and maybe they struggle initially, when they get somewhere. Like, yeah, I'm not entirely surprised. This man's family is hundreds of miles away with his wife is packing up the house right now. The kids are trying to find out where they're going to go to school. He's got to find out the new way to work. I mean, we were talking about Los Angeles before we started. Imagine moving to LA from like Kansas City.
It's the biggest change.
Right? Like wherever.
Green Bay.
Like you've spent your whole career there. Now you're in LA. You've got to find out what part of LA you're going to live in. Where are you going to stay? Are you going to stay where we are now, downtown at level? Or are we going to go, out to the valley? Like, all of that stuff plays a part in your success, because if you're an athlete, routines are extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up at a time, you go to the gym, you go work out, you get your massage, this is where you get your smoothie. Like, all that stuff matters, and it plays a role in your success. And that's a perspective that you either have to have lived as an athlete or know that that's what athletes go through.
For sure.
That's
Crazy,
right.
right?
Moving from cross the country, worrying about that while on top of trying to make the team. I think those are all things people don't understand about the athlete and like what they actually got to go through to be successful, on top of, like you said, making the team, or in his case, being a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So many people see athletes like not on a human level. They think they're like machines. Like they don't realize like they have to go through real life struggles, and like they formulate opinions based off of that stuff without factoring in like they might have to do this, they might have to do that. So like you actually seeing it firsthand makes your takes that much better, you know. One thing that I wanted to ask was like you've been in the industry for 15 years, right? So you've worked with a bunch of different personalities, things like that. Who have you learned the most from, you think?
Ooh, I've definitely learned different important lessons from each of the personalities that I've worked with.
Yeah.
Skip taught me a lot about ignoring trolls.
Yeah,
He probably gets
he's real good at that.
social media.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be, and whatever you think of, you know, Skip's takes, he's gonna give them, and there's gonna be feedback, positive or negative, and it's important to, no matter what it is that you're doing, to you know, compartmentalize who you're going to take feedback from. So you know, he taught me a lot. I learned a lot in radio in Miami. You know, that's where I became a personality, doing radio in Miami. So a lot of the guys that I worked with in Miami have helped shape me there. I mean, I would definitely have to say Colin was a huge influence on me. Yeah. I mean, he is just the way he prepares for the show. A lot of people think Colin like takes himself very seriously, and he doesn't. He's actually like a family guy. He loves like kicking it with his wife and his kids, and you know, going to Utah and chilling. And but when it comes to the show, he takes the show very seriously. Like he wants to give a great product to anybody who gives their time to listen to or watch the show. Like he thinks it's our responsibility to do a good show because people are coming to us to watch the show.
1,000%.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like a privilege to be able to do that, and we should take it seriously. And he does a 2-hour prep meeting before the 3-hour show, which a 3-hour live show is a monster.
That's a long time.
The show I'm on now is an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
That's twice as long. It's so long. And it's live and it's radio. It's like a long format. You really have to prep a lot if you're going to execute that show with the precision that he does every single day and come up with, you know, stuff to say. I mean, we did 4 months from our houses during the pandemic with no live sports.
Yeah.
3 hours a day.
Jesus.
No live sports.
How was that? Yeah, that was crazy.
I blacked out. I don't remember. I really don't know what we did. It lined up kind of perfectly with the NFL off season. So we just sort of did the show with the mentality that the NFL would happen, which obviously it did.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank God. But so that helped. But aside from that, like his preparation, how much he cares about doing a good show, the way that he looks at a story and finds a way to make it relatable to a lot of people and consumable. His cadence is very interesting. You know, it's important to, when you're prepared, you don't have to worry about what you're going to say next. You know, it's almost like giving an oral presentation at school. Yeah. When you're like not prepared, you're like,
stuttering.
You know, yeah, because you don't know what to say because you're not prepared.
Yeah.
So his ability to kind of slow things down as well, like not speed through a point, really articulate what he's saying, try to make it relatable to the most amount of people, and tell stories. You know, he does a lot of comparisons and theories, like real life stuff, like, you know, if this was a divorce and da-da-da-da or whatever, in his own Colin way. So I definitely learned a lot from working with Colin.
Were you scared like the first time you were on national TV for the first time?
Oh yeah, I was very, very nervous.
I can only imagine. I'm just like, I used to get nervous the first time we ever did the podcast. We were nervous. I was like, I can only imagine being on national TV every day.
The very first time I did it, I was nervous. And it was actually with Colin. I have the picture. It was my first day on air because I was filling in on the Herd. I hadn't been on the show, hadn't launched yet. Undisputed hadn't launched yet. So I was the fill-in for the Herd. And I just, like, I can see it I remember feeling that way, but you know how when you're nervous, like, do I look nervous?
Yeah.
And I look nervous. I look like a baby, and like my eyes were glossy. Like I wasn't gonna cry, but I was like nervous.
Oh,
like,
that's like feeling crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I hate feeling nervous. That's why I prepare so much. Like I think prep is the difference between good and great talent. Like you can tell when someone is prepared for something. And it just makes a world of difference just to know what it is you're talking about. And I also just don't talk about stuff I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know about that. Like, what's the point? I'm not going to, sit here and make something up. But yeah, I was very, very nervous.
You probably don't feel those nerves anymore, right? You're just so used to it.
I forget I'm on TV sometimes, which is not a good thing. Like, sometimes I'll start talking and get like into the mode, and I'm like, damn, I hope I didn't say nothing crazy just now, because I was really just going off, and I be talking a lot of shit. So maybe I hope that went well.
But at least you're being yourself. Like, you're just normal.
Yeah. I don't ever like to get outside of myself, though. I think sometimes, especially when you're doing opinion, you can be really passionate about it. And, sometimes that can get you in a little trouble.
Yeah, riled up.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I've done so many shows now, and I'm so used to it that I don't get nervous anymore.
That's good.
So Colin is the person that you learn the most from. Who's the person that you love arguing with the most?
Arguing with, Colin's actually kind of fun to argue with, because he doesn't really argue, because that's not really his thing.
Yeah.
But we have some really interesting discussions, I would say that. I mean, me and Emmanuel now will go at it on the show every once in a while. Shady and I pretty much align on a lot of stuff, so we don't really go back and forth that much. Yeah, I mean, I think I enjoy a heated, interesting, nuanced discussion with just about anybody. I will get kind of excitable, though. So sometimes I think I like just back people down, because I'm like,
you're passionate. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, fine, you win.
Right.
But
so being in the sports industry, and you've been in the sports industry for a while, what's the craziest story or stories that you've heard, whether that's being around fans, you've been around your brother, like what's the craziest story that like you've heard?
I don't know. I kind of like, I'm sort of a undercover source getter. Like,
Really?
people feel comfortable telling me stuff because I don't
You don't
tell.
talk about it.
So not because I don't want to or I don't use it. I'm not a reporter, and I feel like reporters are in a different space than I am. So some people will be like, oh, like have a story, and whether they're a reporter, they'll still put it out there. But I don't ever want to be like in that space. Like, even if it's coming directly from the person, like, no, like this is what happened. I'm like, do I really? I'll let somebody
want to say that? Yeah.
Like, I've had
sense.
people come to me with whole stories. Like, you should put this out there. I'm like, okay, like, thank you. Like, it's good to know. And then it'll be out next week. They'll be like, why didn't you say anything? I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, I'm chilling.
Yeah.
Are you
I'll let the reporters do their job.
Are you ever like, why the fuck did you tell me that?
No, because I appreciate knowing things, because I will use that information to form my opinion. So I won't be like, well, my source said da 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 da, but I'll talk about it because I know about it in a certain, a different type of way.
Yep.
Like, if I know somebody is really not going to this team, then I can, say with more confidence, like, nah, I really think it's going to be this team. I don't like to get into the source or story space. People feel comfortable telling me things. And I respect that.
That's good.
So.
It means you're a trustworthy person.
Yeah, and I don't have any desire to be in that space. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need reporters, obviously, to break stories. Like, that's a very vital part of our business. It's just not my job. And I also think that in order to do that, you have to double source things or triple source things. And Colin actually has a saying, it's better to be right than first. And
it's a bar.
That's how I operate as well. But I don't even need to be right. I'll react.
Yeah.
I'm like, I won't even go that far. I'm
right.
like, oh, like that's what happened. I had no idea that was gonna happen.
So I feel like you're always hearing people's opinions about what you post on social media, and I just wanted to know, how do you separate being Joy Taylor on TV from being Joy Taylor, the person when you're not on TV, and separating the two and being confident who you are and not really giving a shit about what anyone thinks?
Well, I think I just naturally don't really give a shit, but that comes from also, like, I'm 36 years old, so I'm like well past the whole like other people's opinion stage. And you go through different points in your life where you care more about that, and it's understandable. We all do. But I'm actually a very private person. Like, my private life and my personal time, I really don't share that much on social media. I share where I am. I like to share what I'm doing and things like that. But I think social media has become such a monster. Like, it's such a living, breathing, ever-changing thing that controls so much of our lives now. Even not even in sports, just in general. It's dating, it's business, it's where you eat, it's where you shop. Like, it's so involved in everything that we do that I think, particularly if you want to be front-facing or talent, you have to decide early in your career how you're going to use and how you're going to consume social media. And particularly as a woman, because you're going to get some more interesting feedback on everything that you do. So for me, I don't look at it as good or bad. It's just kind of white noise, you know? Like, I appreciate interacting with fans. I appreciate, you know, reciprocating support and, you know, sharing and all of that. But I don't think we were designed as humans to get this much feedback, positive or negative, on anything that we do
all the time.
Right. It's constant. And if you don't find a way to manage it and kind of compartmentalize, like, okay, this is for me and this is for everyone else, then it can really, you know, mess with your mental health and how you feel about yourself. Like, it's hard to post something and have people tell you you look bad,
right,
or you look stupid, or you sound stupid, or they, you know, everyone disagrees with you. You just have to sort of set up these blinders for it. And I talk to women in the business about it a lot. Not just women, really, like everyone has to deal with it. So I think you just have to decide what it is what it's going to be for you and what your cutoff is with it. You know, you don't have to give everyone everything. You don't always have to post. You don't always have to respond. And I mean, for me, I used to be much more, you know, I would clap back.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
I love that.
I love that.
Pretty violently.
Like snapping. You
Yeah.
snapping
As you should, though.
Yeah, but I've actually cut back on it, not because I don't, you know, still have the ability to, but one, I got to the point where, like, I'm just too busy to be checking in on what y'all think about this particular thing. Like, it's almost weird. Like, now that I've sort of curated it, I only have people that all I see is like either positive or like people who are actually trying to have conversation as opposed to trolls. So maybe the filters are very good. But I also think, you know, people are just going to say what they want to say, regardless of, I'm not fixing anybody. I'm not enlightening anyone.
Yeah.
Not on social media. Social media is almost an impossible place to have nuanced conversations. You and I can sit here and talk about any topic, and I can feel passionate about it and you can feel passionate about it. But we're humans and we know each other. And even if we totally disagree, you're not going to be like, fuck you, bitch, go die.
Right. You're not going to say something crazy.
Right. Like, you're not going to do that.
But people really be saying that shit.
People will do that on social media. Like, otherwise normal people, because they feel this level of anonymity and this bubble because they're on social media.
They're safe. They feel safe.
Right. And like, but also, what would make you say, why would you
want me to die?
Say that? Because you disassociate me being a human being, you know, with just you wanting to be right about your opinion. And that's whatever topic it is, like sports, social issues, women's issues, politics, traffic, whatever it is. And that's just not the human to human conversation thing. You can be like, well, I feel this way because, you know, my grandfather, da, 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 da. And I can be like, well, I feel this way because and then maybe we meet in the middle or maybe we don't. Yeah. But let me just go about our day and you go get a coffee and I go home. Like, that's real life conversation. That's a nuanced conversation. It's very difficult to have those on social media because it's a tweet. It's only this long. I'm not reading a whole I don't, you know what I mean? I don't want to hear the explanation.
Right.
You know, and no one else does either. So I think it's important to decide what's going to be for you and what's going to be for everyone else and just be at peace with, some people are just not going to like you and some people are going to say horrible things to you and you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Something that Taylor said to me that always resonates with me. Literally, if she doesn't say anything else, I will always remember that she says social media is not a real place.
It's not.
Like, it's just not real. And people put so much into social media where they drive themselves insane. And she was like, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? It's not a real place. And when she said that to me, I was like, damn, like, if you really think about it like that, it's really not.
It's not. It's not real. It's not a place for real conversation. I mean, we all respect what it is, right? Social media has changed our lives. It has a lot of positive things to it. It started whole movements. It's changed policies. Like, it has a lot of great attributes and it has a whole dark side as well. So with anything in life that is that volatile, you have to be able to stay 10 toes down in who you are and not let it creates, I mean, we've seen people transform on social media.
Yes.
I was leaving work today cracking up. Like, the worst is when you know who somebody really is, and then you see them on social media and you're like, child, okay.
Like, what the fuck
like,
did
I know
you
you
say?
for real.
Clapping hands emoji for whatever it is that you're doing, I
Right.
guess. Like, I'm going to let you do you. I'm not getting involved. But it can really change your personality to just try and constantly get this affirmation.
It's like an alter ego.
Right.
Yeah.
From as Taylor said, from not a real place. These people would not get in their car and drive over to check on you if you needed them. They're not.
That's real.
That's not real. So
That's facts. So you've talked about in the past being in a abusive relationship. You've talked about growing up in an abusive household. Obviously, you being a woman in this industry, and then on top of that, you being a black woman in this industry. Do you feel like I shouldn't say surviving, like conquering all that stuff is where your power and all your confidence comes from?
you can say surviving. I prefer survivor over victim. So
Okay.
yeah, I think survivor is appropriate, or conquering. Yeah, I think going through anything in life, it makes you stronger and more resilient, particularly if you take the time to heal and invest in yourself in that way through, therapy and, taking the proper steps to take care of yourself, but also learning lessons from those situations to, help avoid them in the future and help, educate other people and, awareness and giving back. I think all those things help to, form your story as opposed to letting it become a negative thing in your life. So, yeah, I mean, growing up that way definitely forms the independent side of me, where I feel very much like I will never fully rely on someone else, and that's, I think anyone who's had any sort of abandonment or abuse or have dealt with, a parent that had substance abuse problems or anything like that, like, you grow this callous to help survive in those situations. And it's hard to sort of shed that as you become an adult, because that that's what your life can be if you're that subject to another person's depravities or, shortcomings or mental illness or whatever it is. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely is a part of who I am. And it took a long time for me to be able to talk about it publicly. But the more I think I talk about it, not only do I always get feedback from people who aren't ready to talk about it, who then feel ready to talk about it because they see someone else talking about it, which is a big part of how I was able to get involved in the first place. I was in an abusive relationship, and a friend of mine took me to an event for domestic violence survivors, and I was listening to all these women tell these insane, horrific stories of being like kidnapped and all kinds of just crazy stuff. And they were just speaking about it so calmly and this collected, and like walked everyone through what happened and how they were able to get out of it and what happened and what they did and the steps that they took. And it definitely put me in a space where when you're in situations like that, you feel like you're totally alone. Like no one else is going through this in the world, which is not true, but that's how you feel. And on top of that, you're isolated from everyone. You're being torn away from the things that you love or the person that you are. And so now talking about it and having people know this is a part of my story, it makes it easier to not only like heal from all of those past traumas, but also help other people, because I know that people hearing it will like put them in a space where they feel comfortable just knowing like they're not alone. Like the other people go through this all the time, no matter what they look like, where they're from, if they're rich, if they're not rich, where they live, it doesn't matter. It's all over the world. It happens all the time, unfortunately. But it's not something that's just happening to you.
I really appreciate your realness, because I just feel like there's not a lot of people who have your perspective or willing to give that perspective in terms of, like you said, going to go get help or going to therapy, something that I think people of color all need to do. I go to therapy. I think it's amazing. It's helped me. And after going to therapy, I would literally tell everyone should go. So I just want to say thank you for sharing that. And I'm proud of you. And like, that means a lot.
Yeah. I'm happy you're here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I think therapy is... It's very important. It's hard, I think, to take the first step into therapy because you feel like you're admitting something's wrong with you. And because we're all survivors in some way from something, it's almost like admitting that you're broken or that you need help. And that feels like an ego shot almost. Like I'm tough. Like I've survived this. I got it on my own. I don't need this. But that's why I don't really like to call it mental health. It's just health. Because if your foot was broken, you would not tough it out. You would go to the doctor and get your foot fixed.
Yep.
If you were throwing up every single day, you would go to the doctor and find out what's wrong. If you couldn't sleep, like if anything was going on with your body that caused you that kind of physical pain or discomfort, you would go get it fixed because it would be nagging at you. It would be prohibiting you from living a full life.
Right.
But for some reason, when it comes to mental health and our emotions, we just
stigmatize it. We push it down.
You know, we just push it like it's good, it's cool. Like, no, it's not. You're not good. Like, you can't get through the day. You're missing out on life. You're not able to have real relationships. You're damaging your job or your friendships or your partner's relationship. You're causing yourself harm and you're deteriorating because you won't go get help.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at it that way, as opposed to looking at it as there's something wrong with me. Like, there is something wrong with you, but that's okay because we've all been to the doctor before. We've been to the dentist. We've been to the eye doctor. Like,
right.
It's part of your body, and it's arguably the most important part of your body because if your brain is not working properly, if your emotions aren't working properly, you can't do anything else. So I think that if we start talking about it that way, along with a lot of other stigmas that we need to get rid of,
for real.
But I think it does help to change the perspective of it. Like, if I don't feel good, I can't do anything else. Like, I can't be myself.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be good at work. I can't be good in my relationships. I can't be positive. I can't work for my future. I can't sleep. Like, it affects everything that you do. So therapy isn't just for trying to fix traumas. Like, sometimes you're good and you should still go to therapy just to make sure that you're doing the right thing and you're, establishing positive habits and you're not falling into old habits. Like, it's just a tune-up sometimes, and that's okay too.
That 1,000%.
1,000,000%.
So, if you could describe your life in one word or one phrase, what would you say?
If I could describe my life in one word or phrase. That's a good question. I don't know. See, I wasn't prepared for that one. One word or phrase. I would say intentionally fun. Like, I really like to enjoy myself, but I also have a very serious plan for my life, and I'm very big on boundaries, thanks to therapy. So, I do a lot of what I do with intention, but I also have like a cutoff with that where I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna wild out a little bit.
Right, as you should,
I'm just chill and enjoy myself. So I really like to live life. Like, I love to travel. I love to go out. Like, I'm gonna go to dinner. I'm gonna enjoy my life, but I also really have a lot of things that I want to accomplish, and I'm very aspirational. So it's sort of those two kind of pillars rising with each other of like, that's my balance. Is like, when I'm done working and I'm done with all this, I'm gonna go enjoy myself, and it's not about work right now. But when I'm focused, like, that's what I need to do. So yeah.
I was gonna ask you, how do you, like, to piggyback off what you said, how do you find time to make time for yourself? Like, do you intentionally force it? Is that something you had to work on? Was it always work? Or how'd you find that time for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously reaching a certain level in your career helps, when you're not grinding for, to make sure that you don't overdraft your account, it makes it a little easier to relax.
Right.
So, depending on where you are in life, and, gratefully I am at a place now where I can relax a little bit. That helps. But also, it's like we talked about earlier, when you have a certain upbringing or you come from a certain place, you have this anxiety of losing everything, or you feel like you have to get every dollar's worth of something because, you have this scarcity complex. And I think working through that, like, okay, it's okay to spend some money on this because you have the money and you want to enjoy this, and you should because you worked for it, and it's okay. And just do that and don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. And say, I don't need to do all of this tonight. I can do some of this tomorrow because I have time tomorrow to do that. So we're gonna put that down. We're gonna go
Right.
enjoy ourselves. So like sometimes you have to kind of train yourself. If you and I came up in the like girl boss era where it's like work all the time. Do not take any time off. Do not like stay late. Do the extra stuff. And in some ways I'm grateful for that because I do have a really strong work ethic and I love what I do. So I'm happy to pour into that because I feel like I'm pouring into myself. But you should also enjoy your life.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it's also a very American thing to be like almost have a work fetish where we're just like, work is the number one thing in your life. Like, no, your family is the number one thing in your life. And your partner is the number one thing in your life. And your kids and your friends. And you. Like, what do you want to do? What do you work so hard for if not to enjoy the people in your life and enjoy the city you live in and enjoy everything that they're paying you, whatever they're paying you to go enjoy. So you do kind of have to break away from that a little bit and shed out some of those anxieties. I think I did for sure. And I know a lot of women in the business, and particularly Black women, because we have to do so much more that it's very scary to like, okay, let's just
take the foot off the gas.
Let's just ease back a little bit. Like, let's take that week vacation. You're actually not replaceable. So
right, you're
the
one on one.
Fine. Like it'll be there for you when you come back. And so I just have to kind of force myself to have a balance.
Because life is so short, you got to enjoy it.
Yeah. Can't get so wrapped up making a career that you forget to make a life, you know?
No, that's real.
Yeah, and I mean, if you pick the right career and you do something that you love and enjoy, then it feels like not such a harsh balance, you know, because you are enjoying yourself at work. You do something you love. You enjoy going there. You enjoy pouring, you know, like I said, like doing the extra work, you're pouring into yourself. So there is there's a benefit to that. And that's why you should do something that you love. You should really strive to have a passion for your career because then you aren't completely like one person here and one person here. Yeah. But yeah, there should be time in your life when you are truly not working.
Yeah, for sure. So this show is called The Second Win, right? And a goal of ours is so people who listen can take advice from our guests that might help them catch their second win in life, right? And we usually ask one question, but since your story is so impactful, we have two for you.
Okay. Special. You're special.
Actually, you're special. You're the first one. So the first one is just, what advice can you give to women who are trying to, get their foot in the door in this crazy male-dominated sports industry?
Be exactly who you are. Do not change your personality. Don't change your hair. Don't change how you dress. Don't dim your light down for anyone, no matter what they tell you to do. And you will get told to do it. And I've been asked to dial back at points in my career, and I will be honest, I did because I was asked to, and I was not at the point in my career where I felt comfortable being like, yeah, okay, no. But now I am, and it's the best version of yourself that you're going to be, particularly as a talent, but really in any career or any space, especially in the creative space, is who you are. The most successful people in these spaces are unique. They're not the same. How many of the top people in any business are like, yeah, they're basically the same? No, they are very unique. They might have similar qualities in work ethic or similar qualities in like they shop at the same designer store or something, but they're very unique people and they lean into what they do and don't try to necessarily duplicate someone else's blueprint, for who they are. So I think you can take things in inspiration. You can study how people prepare, like study how Colin prepares, or pay attention to how people deal with feedback, or, this person, they like to, source from this. That makes sense. They like to source from interviews. Like, okay, that's a good tip. I'll integrate that into what I do. But be authentic to who you are, because it's going to happen to you throughout your career that people are going to try and peck away from your lights. And that's your most valuable asset. Like, what makes you, what makes you authentic is the most valuable thing you have. Mm-hmm. You are different than everyone else. You do bring something different to the table. You are unique, and don't make yourself like someone else because someone else is looking for that. You will find that someone will be willing to be that, and they won't be as good.
Yeah.
And you don't want to play a character. Like you don't want to be someone else's personality. That's exhausting. You want to wake up every day and be who you are. And you're going to have to perform anyway. Like when you're on camera, you're up a little bit, you know, like you're you, but it's like you at 110.
Right.
Because the camera and all this just like takes energy out. So you want to be you all the time. Like having to be a whole different character and be up, like that's not how you want to come up through your career. So be authentically you. Don't apologize for who you are.
That was a beautiful answer.
Amazing.
That was
Amazing.
a beautiful answer. The second question that we have is, what advice would you give to, someone else dealing with being in an abusive relationship or growing up in an abusive household?
Well, one, you're not alone. It's unfortunately very common, but the feeling when you are being abused is that this is something that is not happening to anyone else, that no one will understand you, that it's never going to end, and there's no answer or way out. I mean, if you are obviously, in a parent's abusive situation, that's like a whole different conversation, obviously. But if it's a partnership or relationship that is abusive, I think it's important to surround yourself with resources that will help you and support you into getting out. It's not easy to break from an abusive relationship. I think the conversations that we've had, particularly in sports, because Ray Rice was the first time that I actually talked publicly about what happened to me. I think the conversations around physical abuse have definitely evolved over the years, like because of that incident, and because of a lot of the conversations that we've had since. It's definitely become, there's a lot more awareness of how damaging and how frequent these incidents are and situations are. But one of the things that I still think people don't understand is how hard it is to get out of an abusive relationship, because it doesn't happen overnight. Like if someone just walked up to you and punched you in the face and said, "Will you be my girlfriend?" you would not date them. Yeah. That's not how abusers present themselves. They present as they morph into whatever your dream person is. Women and men, because men experience abuse as well.
Right.
And they just don't present as that. So it is a slow stripping of your personality. It's a slow stripping of your access to other people. Maybe they start trying to control your finances, or they want to put your car in their name, or there's just all these small manipulative things that build up to a full-on abusive relationship where you feel like you have no control. And there are a lot of nonprofit organizations and organizations that work to provide resources to help you get out, whether it be, you don't have a place to go. There's shelters. There are therapists available that you can talk to. There are women who, will give you access to the tools that they use. Men, likewise. There's a whole gamut and world of access and resources available to you. So don't feel like you're alone or that there's nothing you can do. And understand that there's a shame associated with going back, but you probably are going to go back because it's a very, very hard cycle to break. And the mental space that you're in when you're in an abusive relationship, you're not yourself. Like I said, if you met a girl on the sidewalk and she kicked you and then was like, "Let's go get a drink."
Right.
Yeah, I'm not.
You would not do that.
It's never happening.
That's
right.
not how it works. So the stripping of your personality, the stripping of your power is a big part of how abusive relationships happen.
On top of bringing awareness, like as a whole, as a society, do you think we're getting better?
I think it's been a tough year to ask me if we're getting better. I'm like, every time I get on any device, I'm like, what are we doing?
Right.
It's very frustrating. I'm exhausted. Guys, can we settle down, please? I do think that we are getting better at the physical abuse conversation. I think we have a long way to go with sexual abuse and sexual assault. Like we are not.
Yeah, no, yeah.
We're not in that space at all to have those conversations in a nuanced and like educated, informed, and empathetic way. I will say the Ray Rice situation did change a lot because of the video. Yeah. Like that
publicly, like it was out there.
Right. Yeah. Like people being able to see that. And unfortunately, that's how some education happens. Like people need to see that it happened for them to believe like, oh, wow, this is what that looks like, especially if you've never been in an abusive situation. Like if you've had an abusive parent or you've seen abuse around you, you know how possible that is. But if you don't ever experience violence, it's hard to articulate to people like, no, this absolutely happens this violently. Like this is a real thing that happens. So I do think that, and some of the policies that some of the leagues have implemented, some of the awareness and education and conversations that have happened, have moved it along. We still have some work to do, but I do think it's grown.
Most definitely.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, Joy, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so happy.
Yeah, I don't know. You snapped. Like, you went crazy.
Yeah.
You probably might have been the best joint we had. No disrespect to nobody else.
disrespect
But you was
else.
snapping on the camera.
That was amazing. Thank you so much.
We want to tell you that we really appreciate you coming on here. For anybody watching, just
like, subscribe, all that,
like,
man.
Subscribe, comment, tell your grandma, tell your sister,
auntie,
tell
your
auntie,
doggy,
tell your pet turtle,
all
you know
that.
what I mean?
Make sure you tune in on FS1 to watch her show.
Yeah, tune in on
Please,
FS1, man.
big
Joy
supporters.
got the fire takes. We got Miss Joy Taylor.
Love you, Joy.
on the show.
Appreciate
Love
you guys.
Joy. Appreciate you.
Of course,
Second win, we out,
anytime.
gang.